Good afternoon, dear listeners. I've got somebody absolutely fabulous to chat with this afternoon. I'm so pleased. And it's Lesley Cordell. She's discovered later in life that she can write. She's just had her first book published. And I think that's wonderful. Lesley had a long career in the police and has been retired for a little while. Have you been doing other things since retiring? Because police retire quite early, don't they?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I did my 30 years and I was 48 and a half when I retired.
Wow.
And I came home to Letchworth to look after my father, who had Parkinson's and dementia.
Yeah.
And so I nursed him until he passed. And then I worked at the Garden House Hospice in Letchworth for about 2 3/4 years, 2 years, 10 months, I think it was. And I was just exhausted at the end of that. And so I thought, enough's enough. I don't really need to work. So I retired. But I did need to do something to keep myself occupied. So I joined a writing class at the Letchworth Settlement in Letchworth, which is it's like an adult later learning centre. They do all sorts of things there: flower arranging, painting, French, Spanish. I can't even remember all the different courses they do, and presentations. And that was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And the rest, so they say, is history, because that's where I got my writing bug.
It's lovely. What's nice, I remember you telling me, was that your friends who attend the creative writing class really are supportive and encourage each other. From what you told me, you're not very pushing forwards yourself. You don't push yourself forwards much, do you, Lesley? But your classmates really encouraged you big time. They said, that's really excellent. You've got to get it published. One of them found you an artist. Let's talk about your book. It's called Angus, and it's the little white fluffy cow who fell in love with the sun. And it's an absolutely delightful book, dear listeners. It's beautifully illustrated by Eileen de Gamma. Is that right? How you say her name?
That's how you say it. As in... the gentleman de Gama, who was Portuguese and sailed around the world. He was a great Portuguese explorer.
Oh, she related.
Well, I think her husband might be, distantly.
Yeah. So this is such a nice book, and I love the last illustration of these that sort of snuggling up at the end. And it says, look out for more stories from Lesley and Eileen de Gamma coming soon. And I think that's wonderful. It just shows what you can do, what you can achieve. It's so nice because it's a story about friendship, and there's lots of interesting learning throughout the way. You get to learn about the Earth's water cycle and rainbows and how clouds form and all that kind of. And it's for children aged 3 to 7. Is that right?
2 to 7.
2 to 7, which is great.
Yeah. I think I started off that I would have it for between 2 and 5-year-olds, but the feedback that I've had since it's been getting purchased by mothers and grandmothers and fathers and grandfathers all over the place is that even the older children up to 7 years old really love it, and they quite enjoy reading it to their siblings as well. So it's suitable. It's suitable from 2 to 7 years.
I think that's lovely that the children are reading it to each other. It just shows how it's like personal recommendation, isn't it? So
you can't have better. Yeah.
I think that's so nice. But I'm right, one of your friends encouraged you at the class, didn't they? So you were having a lesson about...
You're talking about anthropomorphism.
I remember...
It's anthropomorphism.
Oh, well, I wouldn't know. Can you say that again?
I'll try. Anthropomorphism. It's about attributing human characteristics, feelings, and actions to an inanimate object or an animal. You must remember Johnny Morrison from years ago.
Yes, I do.
It's called Animal World, and he used to do all the voiceovers for the chimps and the giraffes. And
it was hilarious.
Oh, it was wonderful, wasn't it?
Well, it was down at Bristol Zoo. What it was, dear younger listeners, was when Lesley and me were young, on the television was this chap called Johnny Morris, and he was a zookeeper. He used to brilliantly have these conversations between animals and at the zoo, and they were having conversations with him, who was the zookeeper. He'd dress up in the zookeeper. And do you know what? He used to get it to a T, didn't he? He did, yeah. So clever. And he'd say, do you mind not giving nuts to my friend over there? I want these nuts, whatever. And you can imagine that was actually saying it.
Was it him? Was it him that brought the baby elephant into the Blue Peter studio?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And
That
it
did
moved
the
everywhere,
big
didn't it?
did the big whoopsie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
dear me.
Well,
We
Johnny,
might be wrong about that.
nobody really has done that since, like Johnny Morris, have they? That did you practice that technique in class? Can you?
Well, basically, the day that I created Angus, we were told that we were going to do anthropomorphism as the subject,
Yeah,
and we had an introduction to it so that we understood, or we all grasped what it was about. And I am a terrible fidgeter in class. I was as bad at school, and I'm still bad at it. I doodle. I just doodle. I'm possibly not always concentrating.
yeah.
And I was doodling sunshine and clouds whilst I was listening to what we were told to do. And we were sent away to do it for homework. When I got home a few days later, I opened my book to start my homework. All I had left was this doodle. And I thought, okay, I'll stick with that. And so I wrote this story about a little cloud that falls in love with the sun. And as a result of that happening, all these other things that are in the book happen as well.
Yeah,
I don't want to give too
much. Where some of the origin of this comes from, dear listeners, is I happen to know that Lesley and Raymond is Lesley's other half, is they love to go on holidays in their camper van.
This is true.
They like to go to the wild coast of Scotland, for example, where you get beautiful sunsets and very romantic, these two, Raymond and Lesley. And they see the sun setting over the sea and the clouds forming and nature and all that. So I think that sort of love of scenery and going off camping certainly influenced the book. And looking at the illustrations, I think I could be right.
I think you're on the right path there.
Yeah. And I love the story of how Raymond and Lesley is a lovely story. And we got together. We're going to use it to introduce the first song. Was Raymond and Lesley were childhood sweethearts at school, and their lives parted, and they still sort of like an itch sort of wondered how each other was getting along in life. And many years later, Lesley returned to Letchworth. There was this song. He used to come around Lesley's house, and they used to play this song all the time, wore it out. Now, we used to have, our generation we used to actually play records, and we used to go to the shops and buy our favourite singles, and there were 45s.
Yeah, some of them were even different colours, weren't they? They were red and blue.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And a lot of them are worth a lot of money now, aren't they? So anyway, do you want to carry on the story? I've started it for you.
Okay, well, when I got home to look after Dad, I needed to contact old friends. So I looked up all my old school friends, and one of them, of course, was Raymond. And it was lovely. As soon as I saw him, my little heart did a flutter, and the rest, so they say, is history. But when we moved in together and I was helping him move in, I discovered a record amongst his collection that should have been in mine because it had my initials on it. And that record was, I beg your pardon, I never promised you a rose garden, which is what we'd been playing to one another years and years ago on a little record player in my bedroom. So he'd had it all those years and kept it. And I've put it in a photo frame on our bedroom wall now. So it's a lifetime keepsake for the pair of us.
Oh, that's lovely. So we'll play that.
Along with the sunshine.
Oh,
there's gotta be a little rain sometime. I've sung in a choir.
How nice.
That all got knocked on the head with COVID, didn't it, really? So
did you do that at the settlement as well, going?
No, we did that at a local church in Letchworth.
Yeah, it's nice.
There's the Letchworth Garden City Chorus. That was the name of them.
Oh, how fabulous! And
we did do some amazing concerts. So it'll be a shame if it doesn't get back going again. But at the moment, I think it's very much in doubt because of the fact that you're in a large group and you're all huffing and puffing whilst you're breathing and singing. So it may be a while before we all safely sing in a choir again, I should think.
There's another group I've come across. Lesley sort of hails from sort of Letchworth area. And another group I've come across are the North Herts All Girls Choir.
All right.
And they're all girls, but they sing beautifully. But They get more than just singing out of this group. They get kind of encouragement and support, team sort of fun.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right, because I think those of us in our writing group get a lot more than just the writing out of it. And we've continued during the lockdown by doing our writing group on Zoom. But it's by no means any comparison to actually sat in the classroom with somebody sat next door to you and having a laugh and a joke and a cup of tea at half time. And that's social. We are all social creatures, and it's almost like we've been deprived of so much, haven't we, during lockdown?
We have.
Yeah.
Now, dear listeners, Lesley and me have got something in common, is we both support Stevenage.
We do.
Football club. And we Lesley's been a season ticket holder for years. Lesley and Raymond go along. And I go along too. And we probably know each other by sight, because there's not a lot of Stevenage supporters. Not masses.
We probably got the turnstile together.
Yeah, we probably go through, and we all know each other by sight. And I miss my friends on the East Terrace. And I miss the atmosphere and the banter, and even losing used to be fun sometimes, or calling the referee Wiggy or whatever.
Or something unrepeatable.
Yeah, and it was quite nice away games. We're quite good at singing songs, and we sing the Only Fools and Horses song, and I miss all that. And actually watching on the telly was not the same, has it? It's
We got some off-price crack ties, some miles and miles of carpet tiles, TVs, deep freeze and David Bowie LPs, all games, gold chains, what's names and header push, and Trevor Francis tracksuits from a mush and shepherd's bush. Push, 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 push. No income tax, no VAT, no money back and no guarantee. Black or white, rich or poor, we'll cut prices at a straw.
We all know each other by sight, don't we? And we have a good laugh, I think.
Yeah, you recognise.
We've got a sense of humour.
Yeah. Well, you have to get a sense of. It's like being a Spurs fan. A sense of humour is absolutely essential.
Essential, yes. So, Lesley, how many of you in your creative writing class?
There was originally 8. There's 10 of us now.
Oh, that's good.
But of the original 8, 4 of us have been published, which is an amazing ratio. So, and it's just it's a great way of relaxing, improving your English and grammar. Because I can tell you now, my grammar is much better now than when I left school, because I've had so much input from the other people in the class, and it gives you great confidence to be able to express yourself. Albeit in an imaginary way, to be able to express yourself on paper and to entertain people gives you a great confidence boost.
Yeah, and I guess your teacher's wonderful. I mean, they're the catalyst, aren't they? The teacher very often.
Well, definitely, because her name's Elizabeth Barber, and she's been doing it for years, and she runs 3 separate writing courses at the settlement. And without her dreaming up exercises week upon week, year upon year, to stimulate you, to make that sort of leap into your own imagination to write something. And so she's absolutely essential. It wouldn't be a writing group without her.
Yeah,
it'd be more of a social event and less of a brain event.
Yeah, and does she motivate you? I guess you'll motivate each other, don't you, as well?
I think actually it is a class that motivates itself. Otherwise, because obviously what Elizabeth does motivate you, but the fact that you want to do well, you want to have praise, and you want to look forward to reading your work out the following week. to all your friends. So yes, the whole thing is motivating.
Do you find you work really hard on your bits, on your little pieces of homework and stuff?
I do work hard, but honestly, I'm just the same now as I was at school. I do everything the night before. So on the Sunday night, I know, I'm so naughty.
You're lastminute.com.
I sit in bed with my cushions are piled up behind me, with my iPad on my knees, and I type away into the middle of the night. It's almost like, to be inspired, I need to be under pressure, which is exactly the same as I was when I was at school. It's terrible. I'm thrown out of it.
Are you one of those annoying people that passes exams like that?
I would do. I'd be a last-minute crammer for exams as well.
And you pass. You see that. I just admire people like you.
I admire people who can steadily do the work across an entire year and pass the exam, because I wasn't like that. I'd fiddle about, wasting time, and then to study like mad at the end. In fact,
I didn't like exams at all. Not at all. I like things where they're coursework and where you get assessed on the job, work related kind of things I've done, and I enjoyed that more somehow. But and you have got a penchant, definitely a French word, there you are, penchant, for writing stuff for children, which is lovely. And I think it sounds like you had a really happy childhood, and I know your favourite book is Black Beauty, because you loved horses. I
think Black Beauty probably set me on the road for loving horses, but it did have a very strong effect on me, because I felt as a child that it was kind of a Bible. It was a Bible explaining to you how to behave towards animals and other people. Whether I read it at the right moment in time, but that's how it felt to me. I would almost be inclined to quote lines of it to people, because I knew it so well, and there was parts of it that if I felt it was appropriate, it would sort of come right into my mind when something was happening. And I think how would Black Beauty or Ginger react to this? Because the whole crux of the matter was that Black Beauty, no matter what befell him in life, would put his best foot forward, whereas Ginger, poor thing, she could never stop kicking her heels up and tossing her head about. She needed somebody to coax her and soothe her through life, but that wasn't what she was ever going to get. And as a consequence, she never enjoyed her life, because she was forever being berated for being a naughty horse. What can I say? It made a big impression on me.
So you don't believe in berating people, you believe in encouraging people, and
I think that's how I am. Yes, I like to be kind.
I like that.
I'd advocate kindness.
Me too, very much so. And I remember going to college and studying management, and they used to talk about how do you motivate people, and in a positive way. And I think it sounds a bit like how your Black Beauty book would advocate things, is you kind of encourage people and motivate them and try and be positive rather than negative,
But it did send me off on to loving horses. Absolutely. I was mad on horses. I was always pretending to be a horse, or getting my friends to pretend to be horses so I could chase them around. And I was forever saying to my dad, would he please, please, please buy me a pony? And he just used to say to me, daughter, when you've grown up, you can waste your own money on a horse. And indeed I did, many times. So I don't have horses anymore. I've properly grown out of them.
Yeah, you find it too expensive, I think you were saying. Yeah.
It's the biggest hole ever created for throwing money into.
Yeah, the bills and things are enormous, aren't they? And it's tough, isn't it? They do wonderful things with horses, don't they? They apparently horses are intelligent and pick up on how you're feeling. And
I think this is probably because they're very instinctive. They're not a particularly intelligent creature. Their brain is about the size of a man's clenched fist, so they're not greatly intelligent, but they are very intuitive.
Oh,
and
that's
instinct, and they've got
Yeah.
great instinct. So they would sense, they will sense your mood.
That's it.
But
That's it. Yeah.
basically, they are a fight or they are a flight animal. So if they're scared, their instinct is to just run away. If they're unnerved, they'll stay away from you. And if they
Yeah.
like you, they'll pull over and see whether you've got anything in your pocket.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. So
Yeah.
some of your family, you don't all originate from Letchworth, do you? Some of your family come from Liverpool.
Yeah, mum and dad and all of their families come from Liverpool.
Oh, they originate from Liverpool.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Bootle was where my mother's family were, which was the most bombed district in England during the war, I think, was Bootle, because right by the docks.
So when you went up there as a child, did you still see a lot of bomb damage? And
yeah, there was a lot of bomb damage, and as kids we used to play in it. Play the prefabs that were flattened. We used to, and nobody had turned the water off, so we used to splash about amongst the ruins of the prefabs. And there was a big church which had been bombed, and we used to play around in there as well. A right naughty lot of ragamuffins, weren't we? Really?
Yeah, gosh, it's just a complete different education and a different way of life, isn't it? And how times have changed so much.
Yeah.
I mean, Liverpool now is lovely. Have you been up there recently?
Oh yeah, I was up there I was up there 2 years ago. 2 years ago, because I went back home to put my mum's ashes into the Mersey. So that was a couple of years ago. Met my cousins and we got on the ferry. They do it beautifully over there. They let you, if you book it, they give you a little platform, a little space all to yourself. And when they're ready for you to put the ashes in other words, they've reached the centre of the river, they give you a couple of little toots on the ferry horn, and you can cast your loved one into the water. So it's it was special. It was a good thing to do.
Yeah, it's nice. I went up there last year with I've got a good friend who comes from Liverpool, and we normally go to the Edinburgh Fringe every year, and he's a bit of a writer as well. I'm really proud of him because he's somebody who stopped going to school kind of age 12, and his dad was alcoholic and things like that. And he joined a writers group in Liverpool.
All right.
And they used to write things like that. And this writers group encouraged him to study. And so much so that they encouraged him and nurtured him. And I think they supported him in some way to go to university, and he did a degree in theatre, literature and theatre studies and drama and things like that, which was wonderful. And I think he's met one or two sort of famous playwrights up there as well that used to run writers groups and things like that. So although he's never had a career in writing, he's always had a love for drama and things. So we quite like going to the Fringe together, and I enjoy it with him because when you're with somebody enthusiastic, they kind of explain things to you, and and you kind of enjoy it more then. But we couldn't go this year, so we went to his native Liverpool, and I was struck how cheerful everybody was up there, and how friendly, and what a lovely atmosphere. And it's very multicultural, very multi-ethnic, and everybody rubs along really well,
Yeah.
And I think they're quite proud of their city now, aren't they, Liverpool? Aren't they?
I think they've always been proud of the city, but I think now you look at the city and see that it is a city to be proud of. There, for many years, it was very broken and run down, wasn't it? But it's quite lovely to see now.
And
the front is wonderful.
Yeah, and like some of the old warehouses are becoming gentrified into lovely flats and things, aren't they? But I really enjoyed their company as well, and I find people talk twice as fast as us in Hertfordshire.
That's so true.
Isn't
so
it?
very true.
They've got very quick-witted, aren't they? They're very... We'll have Ferry Across the Mersey, your next choice.
That's
song. We'll play it right now, and I think it's a lovely one, and it brings back lovely memories for me.
For me too.
And it's a very special song for you, given what you told us. So we'll play it right now, Ferry Across the Mersey. So that was lovely. So Lesley was very brave because in the 1970s, in the mid to late 1970s, the police changed and they started to treat women as equals. They used to have this terrible...
I wouldn't go that far.
No, they went, oh, right. Well, they started to enlist women in the police force and give them the same sort of duties as the men, because
for the same money and same duties.
Same duties. Was there a name to that kind of movement? Can you pin the year? You were the first intake of women.
Yeah, I went in on the 12th of the 12th, 1977.
Right. Wow. Gosh.
A long time ago.
So pre those years, dear listeners, police women were treated very differently in that they had to do specific roles like typing, looking after children.
Women. They had a role which was to assist as to opposed to being a front line, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They tended not to work earlys, lates and nights. They might have worked a shift which covered a part of the morning and part of the afternoon, but they weren't asked to work earlys, lates or nights, and their job was very much to deal with women and children, the softer side of policing, if you like. But they would have also helped out with doing reports and in custody, you know. And then in 1977 they decided they would recruit ladies to join on a full-time shift work basis on the front line for the same money.
So you were the first
intake for that period.
And you went to Hendon College, which is pretty much no more, isn't it, Hendon College now? But at the time, all the police were trained at Hendon College.
All the Metropolitan Police were trained there, and there may have been some from Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire many, many years ago. But certainly the Metropolitan Police were trained at Hendon. I don't know what they do now, to be honest with you. It's been a long time.
Trained the individuals. Hendon is pretty much empty, I think. So what happened next when you when you qualified as passed out as a police constable? How long did it take to train?
In those days, you did 16 weeks 16 weeks, and then you went out onto division, and you had then a further 2 years where once a month you had a written test. And at the end of the 2 years, you had an exam which was on everything that you had learned through training school and in that 2 years. It was quite a stringent thing. You know, there was no failing it and carrying on. If you didn't pass, you were out.
Oh, that was nerve-wracking. So what got me, but I mean, dear listeners, this kind of shook me a bit, but poor Lesley, when she became a policewoman, she was sent to a police station, and all these women that trained together were all separated, and they all went to different police stations, and Lesley was the only policewoman in the whole of the station, which, goodness me, I mean, it must have been hard.
It didn't last. It wasn't like that for a long time, because obviously they were churning women through training school all the time, so it did build up. But initially, it was quite a culture shock to be young, female, and surrounded by
policemen,
blokes, basically. And especially as a young girl from Hertfordshire, I really had no experience of London at all. I had no idea of city living. I had quite a nice bringing up, really. So I had no idea of the ruffians and the problems that I was going to come across. So I had to get used to it pretty quickly. I think that's the best way.
Was poverty quite a shock to you?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Poverty and violence. I think I had no concept. I think I remember saying in my interview for the police, why do you want to become a police officer? And I replied, like probably most young people did in those days, well, I just like to help people. And the chief officer who was interviewing said, well, that includes sending people to prison. And I said very politely, well, I suppose that might help some people, very, very innocently, because you get thrown out there. You actually don't have, or I certainly didn't have any concept at all of what I might be doing, really.
And prison doesn't always work either, I guess you've kind of worked out.
It works for some, but it doesn't work for everybody. And I think I think some people actually do have a better life when they're in prison than they do when they're out.
Some of them want to stay in there.
Yeah, because they get fed regularly. They get to go to bed at bedtime to go to sleep.
And they don't have any responsibilities like paying bills and looking after family.
And when they're out, their lives are very chaotic.
Yeah.
They end up sleeping during the day and being up all night. And, they're...
Well, some of them are homeless and they sleep in a bush and things.
Yeah, some of them are homeless.
Some of them actually deliberately try and get arrested to go back in prison, some of them.
Look, I've had that so many times. So many police officers would have known that this particular person who's just thrown a brick through the window, he wants to go back to prison.
Yeah.
He wasn't really upset or cross with anybody. He just wanted to be arrested for the umpteenth time and taken back to prison. He'd had enough.
The other big aspect I found was that drugs are a real problem for society, and that a lot of, I don't know if you notice this, a lot of crime is driven by substance misuse, by drug addictions, and particularly somewhere like London, and the whole it's masses of crime all around drugs and things, and and the volume. I mean, the amount of thefts that somebody who's addicted that's buying illegal substances do is horrendous, isn't it? It's
a far more prevalent activity than most people realise. It's in your street. Most people don't think that it's nearby them. They think it's something that happens in the high street or in pubs, but actually probably in every street in every town there's at least one person who regularly partakes in some form of drug. Yeah. And it's a ruiner of lives, not just the person taking it, but the family and people who love them or depend on them.
What the listeners will be interested in is that you don't want to write about the police. You don't want to think about all that. You put all that behind you. And actually, having just spoken about drugs and poverty and all that, we can understand it, actually, because I bet you've seen some awful things and been through awful experiences. So, and, it's quite telling. Your favourite film is Bambi.
It is my favourite film. I
think it's very telling.
I think I read it somewhere around 20 times, and I cry every time Bambi's father, after his mother's been shot in the meadow, and they turn away and he says, "Come with me, son." Oh dear, I can feel tearful about it now. I'm very fond to my grandchildren when they say bad things to one another. I'm very fond of saying, "Do you remember what Thumper's mummy said to Thumper when he was teasing Bambi about his spindly legs?" And they'll go, "No." And I'll go, "Thumper's mummy said, if you can't say anything nice, you shouldn't say anything at all." So I still use sayings for it now.
That's lovely. Oh, it's nice. Well, if I can, I'll try and have a bit of Bambi for you. I shall play it on, I shall see if I can.
That's why they call me Thumper. They call me Thumper. Thumper!
But I have written some police stories, and I have actually got around about 45,000 words of a detective novel that I've started.
Oh.
But I haven't looked at it for 18 months or 2 years because I'm told.
So I got that wrong. You have been writing about the police a bit. I got that very wrong, listeners.
I might have kept it under my hat. I might have misled you.
You kept quiet. You said, "Oh, I don't want to write about the police," last time I chatted to you.
Well,
did you or did you not? I'll cross-examine you. We've both been in the witness box, haven't we, Lesley?
Yeah, we have. Well, it was always a bugbear for police management, the amount of time that police officers spent in courtrooms.
And they would adjourn cases, and people wouldn't turn up, and things would go wrong, and they were forever adjourning, weren't they?
Not there. Acton was the first court that I went to, which was possibly one of the oldest buildings as well. But after that, I went to lots of other different courts, but not.
So we've got Bambi. So you do write about the police occasionally. We're looking forward to you and your classmates sending in short stories for my listeners. We really look forward to that.
Yeah, we're going to do that for you. We're going to work out how to send them to you pre-narrated to save you time.
Yeah, and I think my listeners should send gold stars to you or something. We need to have a thumbs up system.
We definitely have to have some feedback about the quality of our stories.
Yeah, positive feedback. So we want the listeners to write in. So your last song is No Such Way as Halfway, James Blunt, which is about being committed and motivated, and sums you up, really. It's your philosophy of life.
I think so. And it's a fairly modern song because it's getting played quite a lot now. And I just like the vibe of it. You know, you're either in or out of love. Nobody goes dancing on a dance floor to dance alone. I just like the vibe. I like the sentiment. Yeah. Pick yourself up, brush yourself down, and try again. Get in there.
As well. What I love is, I mean, you're fully committed to your writing, and you're not sort of no such way as halfway with your writing, for sure. With your relationship with Raymond, I've met Raymond, everybody, over Zoom, and he's great. And you compliment each other, you're brilliant. And you've got different interests. I mean, Raymond does music, and he makes videos and things like that, but also creative, actually. You're both creative, which is nice. But he's a good laugh, isn't he? He's good fun.
Yes, he is.
You know? And you really enjoy each other's company, and it's so nice, such a lovely story that two childhood sweethearts that were kind of pining for each other, I think, because apparently he used to like get in his car and sit outside your old house and sort of reminisce about the old days. So you were kind of pining for each other, and all these years later, you meet up, and you're no such way as halfway. You're like fully committed, and really, you're not only partners, but you're best of mates, aren't you? You're such good fun together, and it's lovely. And off you go on your camping holidays all over the place, and living in a small place. My mum always used to say, if you can, before you get married, she used to say people should go on a camping holiday and see if they get on.
You know what? I used to say to my probationary constables, they talked to me about they'd fallen in love and they were thinking of getting married. I used to say, before you do that, go on a cheap Spanish holiday in a very small, dirty hotel for 2 weeks. And if you still love her or him at the end of the 2 weeks, then get married. Yes. But I think it might be where the relationship falters.
Yes. So my mum had the same advice, except she would say, try camping. My parents used to camp in a mini traveller car. Those little mini, the old mini. God, cars are huge now, aren't they? My God. But yeah. So I think you and Raymond are absolutely wonderful, and it's so nice. You can see it. Your good laughs, and I'm sure I've sat in front of you at the odd football game away at Cambridge and things like that.
You probably have. If I could see the back of your head instead of your face, I'd probably recognise you.
Yeah. In fact, you do know me. You do know of me because I'm famous at Stevenage for certain reasons. Anyway, on that note, we're going to play No Such Way as Halfway. Dear listeners, this lovely book, how many pages is it? It's about, 30 odd pages, roughly? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, and it's even got blank pages at the end where children can do their own drawings.
Yeah, that wasn't intentional, but I think they should be encouraged to make use of the thing.
I think that's really lovely. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And Lesley, how to buy it is you go on Amazon.
Yeah, if you go to Amazon and you put in the search field, if you type in Lesley Cordell or Angus the Little White Fluffy Cloud Who Fell in Love with the Sun, but I think there's been so many people buy it that if you just type in Angus the Little White Fluffy, it will bring the title up by now.
And
it's
how much does it sell for?
£4.99.
Which is reasonable for a brand new book. I think that's really good.
Yep.
And it's a nice paperback. The colour work and the printing is delightful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's lovely pictures in there. There's a mum hanging out the washing. There's two children with the umbrellas. Beautiful drawings of the sun and the earth. And I love the page with the butterfly on it. And and the dragonfly.
Eileen has tried to get as many things in there that you, without spoiling the picture, so that you've got something to talk about. You can point at things.
Ah.
Because for the younger children, maybe the story's not going to grip them, but younger children love the pictures, don't they? The umbrella, the colourful umbrella, the puffins, the seagulls, the robins having a bird bath. And so there's lots in there to entertain the eye as well as the brain.
I think that's brilliant. And it's an utterly charming story, dear listeners.
Thank you.
I highly recommend it. And we've got some autograph copies that Lesley has very, very kindly given us. I've got the ISBN number here. It's ISBN 978-191-330144. And it's just published now, so that's really exciting. It's published this year, only a few weeks ago.
It was published in March, and we've had 24 5-star reviews, which is cracking.
24 5-star reviews.
There's such beautiful reviews as well. People have taken the trouble to post a picture with the review, and they're just glowing. The things that people have said, it's just
I'm so impressed.
Yeah, I am. It's lovely.
Us local people, we're so proud of you. I mean, later in life, becoming an author, and it's wonderful. So, Lesley, we've got 3 books to give away. Yes. And Lesley's very kindly written something lovely inside. Hi there. I hope you enjoy this story about Angus and his friends. Stay safe and be kind, which I think is Lesley's lovely motto. And she puts lots of love, Lesley Cordell. So we got a lovely book, 3 to give away that have been autographed by Lesley. And we want the listeners' suggestions to write in to my email address, which you'll find on the radio station website, or you can go on my Facebook page, which is Out and About the local community, East Herts Radio, and you'll find my email address there. Email me with your suggestion of what Lesley should be writing about next for this age group, for children.
Yeah.
And
what would you like me to write for my next story?
Yes. And we don't want anything about the police.
If it's suitable for children, I'll consider it.
See, we've changed tone. Since I last spoke to Lesley, Lesley's much more nice about, I won't call them PC plods and things.
Oh, dear.
I'm in trouble. Was it hard being a nice policewoman?
No, it wasn't hard. It was, sometimes you had to be hard. There's no 2 ways about it. Some people weren't listening unless you were hard, but most of the time I could just be myself,
Yeah. Do you know, I was very similar as a probation officer, but I used to be at odds sometimes with some of my colleagues or the police even sometimes.
Well, my nickname was Beanbag.
Oh.
Because...
Oh, that sounds almost rude.
Because it wasn't because of my shape. It was because I had this thing where, I like to get everybody talking and resolve it, So I had a thing. Yeah. I had a thing with a pencil, and the only person that could talk was the person holding the pencil. So I'd have my say first, then pass the pencil round, And I took great pride in making sure that a police officer didn't get called back to that place. I didn't see that, taking the the loudest and naughtiest away as being the result. Get everybody happy again and drive away knowing that you won't get called back. And so as a result of my my conversational techniques, I gained the nickname Beanbag.
Relaxing to be with. In other words, beanbags are nice.
Oh, that's one way of looking at it. And I used to, in my latter years, there was another WPC, which is the wrong thing to say because we were all PCs, but anyway, and her name was Marie Worrell, and she was quite a mature lady like myself, and we used to be referred to as Beanbag and Handbag.
Oh dear.
She went everywhere with her handbag, and as we know, I went around with my imaginary beanbag.
Well, if I'd been a woman, I would have called those men names back. I would have called them all. I would have invented names like that for them.
I probably gave as good as I got. I don't think they
good, because they deserve it. Coming up with names like that for you. I would give them names back. Yeah.
So I could quite tell you lots of old police stories, but then this conversation would never end. Yes.
No, we want nice stories, I think, about seasides, journeys. Could be holiday journeys around the world, sort of thing.
It could be about an animal.
A horse would be rather good.
It could be, or a hippo. It could be anything you would like me to write about, which is maybe your favourite sort of story, and I'll give it a go. I'll give it, whoever the winner is, I'll give it a go.
Lovely.
Perhaps we'll read it out on your show, Bernie, for the winner to enjoy.
Yes, so do get writing in, and we want to hear your suggestions, and we shall be really excited. And we'll get back to you soon. Well, the time's come to end the show today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Mickey Go Cool for letting me loose on his radio station, and look forward to you all joining me tomorrow at